Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. It's time to recap the Toronto Film Festival. We weren't there, but we're still going to recap it from the outside. Talking about the noteworthy movies, what people are buzzing about, what critics like, and of course, what is getting that Oscar talk. And while we're going through these, we're going to speculate on that People's Choice Award, which is becoming, so important every year. Overall, it's much less crowded than last year, so there's just not as much to talk about. And it's kind of obvious what people think is going to get nominated from this festival. I think we should start off with Nomadland, because that has like a 97 on Metacritic.
Yep.
we told you, we said this was going to get a high 90s. It had that buzz around it. And here we are. This is bound to be the critical darling of probably the entire year.
That's right.
Very naturalistic indie filmmaking. Frances McDormand, she's given a subtle, realistic, grounded performance with all these non-actors. We're going to see it actually pretty soon because we snagged some New York Film Festival online tickets. So we're going to be reviewing all the films that we see, including Nomadland. And I think you can also snag those tickets online. This film is a lock for many Oscar categories. We're talking picture, director, actress, screenplay, score,
Absolutely score.
editing?
Score.
Yeah, probably editing, cinematography.
Yeah, cinematography. Oh, of course.
That's probably
That's-
it. Is David Strathairn getting nominated? This is up for debate.
that's
Is
true.
he Sam Elliott in Star is Born, where he has a small but memorable role? Or is he just a little too small and Frances McDormand is the star and they don't really worry about David Strathairn?
I think it's a small but memorable role, but it still is not clear if he is going to get nominated.
Now, what could work against this film that I think we're not seeing yet, because we just look at the Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic scores and we go, oh my God, like everybody loves this. It is a slow film. It is a little bit of a plotless film, a film that if you're not super into like indie movies, you might kind of not be into it and you might be like, nothing happened. So this is not a big crowd pleaser. If you're thinking 97, of course it's going to win Best Picture. I would caution you to consider that the average audience member isn't going to be head over heels about it.
Yeah, people are going to accuse this film of being boring and not really having a plot.
I don't think we'll see Nomadland win Best Picture,
But I think it'll be the best reviewed film of the year. For this reason, I'm not sold that despite having the best reviews out of the festival, the most buzz with critics, not sold that it's going to get the audience award. If it doesn't get it, it'll place second.
Yep.
Okay, that's what happens with these films. The high 90s Metacritic, like Roma Marriage Story, Call Me By Your Name. These movies are like second, they place. They're second and third. The winner is always the biggest crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the Nomadland, I don't know, but there's not as much competition this year, so we'll see.
Now, could this movie win anything? Because it seems like it's a near lock for picture director. If Viola Davis doesn't win for whatever reason, then it's McDormand's third Oscar. She's giving one of her best performances of her career, but it's a little more of a subtle performance. It's not the most showy, transformative thing you're going to see, which is more of what Viola Davis is doing. It seems. We don't even have an image, but we think. Specific prediction here, but the Critics' Choice are going to give this screenplay, that's what's going to happen. And then the Oscar people are going to think it's winning screenplay, and then it's going to go to something more of the crowd pleaser, maybe One Night in Miami. I don't know.
But I still think it could win screenplay. Like, I don't know if Moonlight was considered a crowd pleaser, and that's also a movie that placed at TIFF, but Moonlight did win Best Screenplay for being, the subtle and slow movie that it was. But I agree that it's going to have competition with maybe a more Oscar baity movie.
The other big Oscar maybe lock is One Night in Miami. Regina King's directorial debut goes right to the Oscars. There's not one review of this movie that doesn't go Oscars.
Part of that is that it has the ensemble. It's going to get nominated for SAG Ensemble. It could win SAG Ensemble. The 4 performances at the center, everybody's just buzzing around. There are 2 performances, I think, that could take it all the way to a nomination. Probably not a win. Kingsley Ben-Adir as Malcolm X in lead. I think he will go lead at this point. It's possible they shove everyone in supporting, but there's enough hype around him and people singling him out as the best performance that he would make sense in lead. And he wouldn't be competing with his co-star who could get nominated, Leslie Odom Jr.
Leslie Odom Jr. is just a fucking lock. He's a lock all the way. He's like number 2 right now. At first, it was difficult for me to read reviews and decipher who they're going to campaign, but now I feel like the consensus has been established. It's Kingsley Ben-Adir in lead and Leslie Odom Jr. in supporting, and that's just how it's going to be. Can they get 2 supporting nominations? Can Eli Gorey get in there? Probably not.
We've touched on picture. 2 actors. Definitely a screenplay nomination,
sure.
maybe a win, maybe editing. I don't know.
Nah. It's not a technical contender. And if there's
Some
any
people say costumes, maybe, but
some
I'm like,
people do say costumes, production design are very well done. I just don't know if they are bombastic enough because, as we know, the Oscars, it's most costumes. And
yeah,
most
we don't
production
know.
design.
Maybe the Oscars won't. Maybe no one will release any period films, and we'll just have to nominate films like this for production design and stuff.
If there's any criticism that people seem to be having, it's that it feels a little too much like a stage play, and that means maybe the cinematography is not doing like a whole lot. The directing is more about like the performances and the emotion, but it's not like the most visually appealing movie. So I don't know if it plays in technicals. Perhaps it could get editing, but I wouldn't bet on that right now. You know, could it get director? Regina King is getting a lot of director buzz, and buzz matters. I think she could get in. I would probably put her at like a 5 right now. I don't think she's entirely safe. The movie may lack visual flair.
Directing a play, it's more about like working with the actors and the blocking. So she'll have a harder time getting in director, but people like Regina King and people want to see the first Black woman nominated for director.
And it would also be the first year that 2 women are nominated for Best Director. Almost 40% women in a category? Oh my goodness. How radical. How radical. It has an 80 on Metacritic. That alone would make you think, is it getting in? It's a crowd pleaser. It's a charmer. It's powerful. It's relevant. It's all the things that an Oscar contender needs to be. So it doesn't need to be the best movie of the year.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best movies of the year, but not the best movie of the year for many people. But I think it's a lock for a lot of these categories.
Yep.
I mean, we can definitely call it a Best Picture lock.
Yeah.
You bitch. There's only 2 films so far that are Best Picture locks. Last year, we had about half of our lineup determined.
I actually think I will predict One Night in Miami to be winning the People's Choice Award because it is the crowd pleaser movie. And if we look at the winners, they're unquestionably like the crowd pleasers. Is there another movie here that could be nominated for Best Picture? I think actually the buzz is rising for this one. Came out at Sundance. It's The Father. This was sort of hovering around the number 15 spot on my predictions.
No, it's because you saw it and that's like what you thought about it after you saw it.
My sense was I didn't sense a Best Picture nominee. The fact that this hit Toronto and is spreading buzz is really important. And the buzz that you're hearing is really great. Definitely seeming to transcend those just Best Actor movies like Still Alice or The Wife or even Crazy Heart. Like, I think it could go beyond the performances and even get the screenplay. And then from there, how big is a step to picture? If the year isn't so crowded, I think The Father can get into Best Picture. And, you know, thinking more about it, it is kind of a movie that anyone can relate to. It is like kind of a tearjerker. It's not a feel-good movie, but it's definitely something that I think audiences will like connect with. And so I think it has
great reviews.
It has great reviews.
People giving it like their 5 out of 5s and 4 out of 4s. That's really what made me think like this is connecting pretty deeply with a good chunk of people. And The Father's been trying really hard. This probably should be in my bottom half of my Best Picture list.
Yeah,
my top 10.
I'm thinking about moving it on.
And at this point too, like if I think that it even has like 50-50 odds, I don't know what other movies are going to be. So I'm going to put it over those movies, and it has pretty good odds at Gold Derby.
And the hype for Hopkins is growing as well. I'm sensing that more buzz about like, he's so good, we kind of have to give him the award, right? Because that's true.
Yeah, I think some people are reluctant to say that he is the front runner, but you've been saying it's in Sundance that you think he will win. And
do year-long predictions last? I'm skeptical, but with the movie premiering at TIFF and doing a great job building the buzz, I mean, he could really go all the way.
I think him riding the buzz of the movie itself will boost him above Delroy Lindo.
The Father's much bigger contender than Five Bloods.
Bigger contender. Let's also consider that every single Best Actor winner of the last decade, their film was nominated for Best Picture. It matters. The last one, I think, to not have that happen was Jeff Bridges in Crazy Heart. There are several other examples, but in the last decade, we just haven't seen that. I think it's one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year, probably.
It is. And think about
it's
it
going to
more.
stay in the 80s, and it's in the high 80s right now on Metacritic.
It makes me sad because the father doing such a good job spreading that hype from Sundance and TIFF. Why didn't Minari go to TIFF? They're not.
A24 is dead silent right now.
Yeah.
They are just crawling into a corner and waiting out the storm, like hiding under a blanket. So they're not campaigning Minari at all right now, it seems. Or if they're reserving a campaign for next year, let's talk about Good Joe Bell. I was saying, I don't know what the hell this movie is. No one's talking about it. Mark Wahlberg's in it doing something serious. The writers of Brokeback Mountain are doing it. It's an emotional wreckage kind of movie. This is getting mixed reviews.
This is being nicknamed by some critics to be the gay Green Book. Some people think that it has sort of this perspective issue, or they don't really agree with like the framing of the story. It also seems like a movie that audiences just like literally will not care about that, just like Green Book. You know, critics kind of had a problem with that movie, but audiences were like, yep, I'm eating this up.
Even people who say that, they say the movie's well-intentioned and most likely it will have a positive impact. Some people just think it has like a bad message, and that's not a 2020 movie. It's more like a 2000s movie, which is probably totally fair.
They are saying that Mark Wahlberg gives the best performance of his career, perhaps.
Perhaps.
If this is the gay Green Book, does that mean it's getting nominated for Best Picture? The reviews are worse. The Letterboxd score is looking worse.
The hype is not as there. It's not getting buzzed about like Green Book was. Like Green Book, I don't know if you remember the buzz on that one was like insane. Some people are saying maybe Best Actor. I haven't heard a lot of people saying maybe Best Picture, but I'm going to hold out on saying whether I think it will get nominated until it gets released to the public and audiences see it. I think that's going to determine whether it has a potential for a Best Picture nomination. I'm thinking of it more like The Blind Side and Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, in addition to Green Book, where it doesn't really matter that the critics are not going to love it. Audiences might find it important and emotional enough that it could get in. I am holding out a reservation for that, and I'm really curious to see whether this film places in TIFF's Audience Award. I would consider putting it like on my Best Picture top 10
if it wins.
Well, if it wins, obviously, but maybe even if it places, it shows a little bit of potential to me too. At most, it would be like actor, picture, maybe screenplay. Most likely would be Wahlberg getting nominated, and I don't even know how likely that is.
I cannot squeeze him in. I looked at my list. I took out my accounting machine and I put on my glasses. I couldn't fit him in. I couldn't squeeze him in there.
It's going to be up to the audience. We're going to need to look at that IMDb score when it comes out.
Another movie with potential to get a couple Oscar nominations here is Pieces of a Woman. This film is getting pretty positive buzz out of the festival. The reviews are sort of mixed positive, but I think that there's a lot of people who are pretty passionate about it. It's a little bit of like a risk taker of a movie, which is kind of what you'd expect from the filmmaker of White God and Jupiter's Moon. Every review will tell you about the ambitious 23-minute one take in the beginning where Vanessa Kirby's character gives birth.
Insane. And she won the Actress Award at Venice.
Yep.
People say her performance is insane. She might win some Critics' Circle Awards, I think, but have a harder time breaking into the Oscar race because this movie is kind of brutal, it seems. But yeah, she is getting a lot of hype.
The thing about like Emily Watson and Breaking the Waves, she's kind of skyrocketing on Gold Derby, which means the buzz is catching. That's a good sign for her. The other possible nominee is Ellen Bernstein in Supporting Actress. She hasn't been nominated in like 2 decades. People are saying that overall the ensemble is like amazing. It's a superbly acted movie, and Ellen Bernstein apparently gets some standout fucking monologues. Like monologue that's good enough for a nomination in itself. I think both those actresses are in contention, and other than that, there's nothing for this movie.
We have to see if an Oscar voter is going to be able to tolerate like the grief of the movie, I think. It seems like a real downer. I'm looking forward to seeing it though, definitely.
Ammonite premiered to mixed reviews. They are positive, but they're not like Oscar level. It kind of made me go like, oh, this is done for picture. It's done for screenplay. It's only not done for actors, really.
I'm actually surprised that after reading some of the reviews, people saying that it kind of fell flat for them. It was sort of a dud. Like it just didn't really give them what they wanted. That some people gave it 100 on Metacritic. I wasn't really expecting that. So it seems like people have a wide variety of opinions on this film. But I think that the average person is thinking that this movie is good, but not great.
They say it's like a little cold, a little distant.
Which is kind of what we said from the trailer. Like, it looks a little bit familiar. People were saying that too. I think what's sticking, we also kind of said this, is that the performances are still in contention. Kate Winslet, people think she's going to take it all the way to the Oscars. Not for a win, but for a nomination. I don't know that she's like a complete lock if the movie just like kind of dips into nothing. If it makes like no money, then maybe she doesn't get nominated.
She's buzzing a lot though. But
what if it makes like no money? I'm just saying.
Nothing's making money this year.
And then Saoirse Ronan has hype too, but not as much, right?
Yeah. Some people are saying that it's like one of her best performances that she's ever given. So I don't really know why she wouldn't be in contention. I think she's still in there. Like, I would have both of them on my list. I don't see it sustaining like a score nomination or a screenplay or anything. The scores right now are actually 77% on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic. So they're not awful. And if you were excited about the movie, you might still love it.
So we might have 3 Best Actress nominations out of these festivals: McDormand, Kirby, and Winslet.
I think from here on out, we're kind of done with Oscar potential pretty much. A movie that's been getting a lot of buzz that premiered at South by Southwest I didn't hear of back then, but now I'm hearing a lot about it, is Shiva Baby. I don't know much about it, and I actually don't want to spoil too much for myself because I hear it's like a weird combination of genres, maybe a little comedy, maybe a little horror. I think it might be like kind of a filmmaking feast or something. It is getting a little buzz to win that audience award actually, because many people are coming out saying that they really liked the movie. I'm very excited to see it now. It's now on my radar big time. Another Round, Thomas Vinterberg. This movie seemed to premiere to very positive buzz. I think audiences actually are really digging the movie. They think it's like entertaining and funny, has something sort of interesting to say about the Danish drinking culture.
Does this film seem like it's going to get nominated for foreign film? I think it could.
Yeah, they submit it. Yeah, probably.
It has like mixed to positive reviews, I would say. Like, some people really like it, but some people are like in the middle on it.
Which is sort of weird,
yeah.
Because Letterboxd, it has a 3.9, which is very high. Wolfwalkers, an animated film that I actually lied before. This has Oscar potential for animated feature for sure. I think it's a lock. This studio did Secret of the Kells and Song of the Sea, both of which were nominated for animated feature, and people are saying this is perhaps the best film to come out of the studio yet. And so it gets nominated at the Oscars. Bruised, Halle Berry's directorial debut, unfortunately didn't get near the amount of buzz that Regina King's did. People say that Halle Berry's performance is good. I actually wonder if this is embargoed because I'm not seeing any official reviews for it. From the reactions that I have seen, most people are sort of middle of the road on it. They think it's maybe decent, but perhaps Halle Berry hasn't found her voice as a director is what I'm hearing. I Care a Lot with Rosamund Pike and Peter Dinklage has good reviews. It seems like a dark comedy where all the characters are like despicably unlikable, but like you just can't take your eyes off Rosamund Pike.
Is this a comedy at the Globes?
I think. Have you seen it? Is it a comedy? You tell me. Concrete Cowboy, which stars Caleb McLaughlin, has Idris Elba in it. People are saying that the performances are really good, and they really are saying that Caleb McLaughlin is very promising for a future outside of Stranger Things, which is nice to hear. The movie's getting decent reviews, not necessarily blowing anybody away.
Shadow in the Cloud with Chloe Moretz is like a World War II pilot who fights off monsters, I think. Got surprisingly positive reactions. People seem really receptive to it. It's doing a lot of genre things. People are saying it's really fun. Like, that's what they want when they go to see an action film. And Chloe Moretz is like a badass in it.
The Waterman is David Oyelowo's directorial debut. He did a family movie, which is kind of an interesting move to make. Critics are saying it's a solid adventure outing that the family will enjoy.
It's such a weird thing to say about a movie in 2020. Like, they're still making like family films. What does that even mean? He's gonna direct like the next live action like Disney animal movie, probably.
Yeah, he probably should. American Utopia, which is a documentary directed by Spike Lee, is about David Byrne's stage play American Utopia, and I believe it's pretty much a filmed play, I guess sort of like Hamilton. It seems like people are really digging it. So I wonder, like, did Spike Lee do something really interesting with it that goes beyond just like a filmed play?
Like, will this go as a documentary at the Oscars?
Actually, yeah, because this is considered a documentary, whereas Hamilton was not considered a documentary. So there's got to be something else there. The bottom line is that it's getting really good reviews. Penguin Bloom with Naomi Watts, based on a mom novel about a little bird who she develops a very good friendship with. People are saying it's all right, it's okay. A little sweet, a little endearing. And Gia Coppola's Mainstream, which premiered at Venice, stars Andrew Garfield in a wacky-ass role. I think one reviewer said it was like one of the most obnoxious roles in cinema history. Some critics kind of hate the movie. The reviews are overall sort of negative, but some actually are admiring its ambition. Seems like a what the hell kind of movie.
What's your top 3 for People's Choice?
One Night in Miami is number 1, and Nomadland number 2. And number 3, I guess it's between like Shiva Baby, The Father, and Good Joe Bell for me. The Father, I'm going to go with The Father here.
Really?
But in that case, it could make for another 3 out of 3 Best Picture nominees, which last year was the first time that happened, where all 3 to place were picture nominees. Sometimes they'll actually go for something a little stranger, and maybe this year where there's less competition, there's more room for that to happen.
I'm going to be an asshole and go with Good Joe Bell in my number 3 slot. Number 1 and 2, I agree with you about. Number 1 and 2, agree with you. One Night in Miami, Nomadland. I don't think there's any question that those are going to end up in the top 3. Maybe Good Joe Bell has found like the right kind of people, and it has touched some hearts. I snuck in Jojo Rabbit as my number 3 last year by like a hair, and obviously that won, so not sure about my 3rd place slot, but we will see.
I mean, it could be number 1. It's not out of the question to me that
it's
that
not
could win.
Completely out of the question.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. What award will the audience give you?